Greetings, everyone. This is Eric Glazer, and welcome to Bright Spots in Healthcare, produced by Shared Purpose Connect. Each episode, we bring leaders together to not only inform you, our audience, but also unearth bright spots, successes at health plans, hospitals, and other healthcare organizations around the country. Our goal is to identify as many bright spots as possible so that you can determine if the ideas shared during this episode can be applied at your organization. We believe this strategy of finding a bright spot and cloning it is the most effective way to improve healthcare in our lifetime. A super exciting topic we're going to discuss today around innovation, artificial intelligence, and how it will be impacting healthcare in a very positive way. And to do that, we have the privilege of having Seema Kumar, CEO of Cure, here on the show. Cure is an innovative campus in New York City boasting laboratories, lecture halls, and office space, as well as technology and other amenities to let innovators work and enable them to be successful in whatever they're trying to do across the healthcare industry. And this includes academic institutions and other non-for-profits. So Seema, welcome to Bright Spots in Healthcare.
Thank you, Eric. Great to be with you.
Glad we were able to do this. We met in New York City at another conference, and we've been talking about this for a little bit. So
yes,
super excited. Let me first tell some of the folks a little bit about you, and then you could jump on and expand. So prior to Cure, Seema spent, and this is what really excites me about having you on the show, 2 decades of experience at Johnson & Johnson in senior leadership roles, including most recently, Seema was the global head in the Office of Innovation for Global Health and Scientific Engagement and served on J&J's innovation strategy, public health leadership, and the COVID-19 vaccine steering committees. And before that, she was the chief of staff to Dr. Eric Lander and the chief communications officer at the Whitehead Institute at MIT. Center for Genome Research. Also, that's part of the Broad Wright Institute in Cambridge. And she played a leadership role in some little initiative called the Human Genome Project. So really a huge wealth of experience we're about to benefit from. So Seema, why don't you tell us a little bit about Cure, and maybe if you could add some color on some of the J&J and Broad best principles that maybe you're incorporating into Cure.
Yeah, Eric, thank you so much for having me. And, yes, I worked at Johnson & Johnson, and before that at the Whitehead Institute and the Genome Project. And that Genome Project and the post-genomic era and how to take advantage of the genome is what led to the launch of the Broad Institute, which after the launch, I left and came to J&J. But before that, I had worked at NIH and Johns Hopkins. And why is that relevant? So it's relevant because I worked in hospital, in academia, in industry, as well as in the government. And so when Cure reached out to me with this particular job, it was like I was, it was coming full circle because what Cure is, as you mentioned, is an innovation campus. And in addition to all the things you mentioned, Cure is also a knowledge leader, a convener, trying to build an ecosystems approach to solving the biggest challenges in healthcare and finding cures. And as you know, big challenges in healthcare involve lots of different stakeholders, including hospitals and academic institutions, government, industry. And so Cure is a place where we bring all of this together, including non-for-profit and for-profit, to drive important conversations, but to also spread knowledge and learning for people to really advance healthcare. And so that's what I'm really excited about. And that's what, attracted me to Cure. Speaking of bright spots, Cure is the bright spot in New York City.
I love it. And what made it really exciting for me to have you on the show is because of what Cure's mission is, and you get to interact and engage and meet with a lot of interesting CEOs and entrepreneurs in the healthcare and technology space. So you have a really good purview into what's going on around technology and engineering and healthcare. And so I'd like to start because you'll go to any conference now, and one of the top two topics is always going to be AI now. And so what I'd like to get the level set and allow you to educate our audience on is, where do you see right now the most potential for using AI in healthcare? And maybe even in doing that, talk a little bit about Cure's Exchange Challenge. And we could then maybe lead into some of those players there. But like, I just want you to share with us what you're seeing and how you think this is going to impact the industry, and then maybe bring in the exchange as well.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, AI is all the buzz, right? I mean, you can't walk two steps in New York City or any conference that you go to without, the two most common letters coming up, which is AI. And I personally believe that that buzz is well deserved, because every so often, just having watched science unfold over the course of my career from different vantage points, what I see is every so often something comes along that really revolutionizes. So science is always an evolution, but then there is, every so often there is a step change. And the Human Genome Project was such a step change. And also, I believe that AI will be, that kind of a step change. We saw CRISPR, we saw cloning, we saw all kinds of things, recombinant DNA before that, and the ability to do gene editing now. So I think AI really holds a huge amount of promise, because what it has the ability to do is to not only drive efficiency and also accelerate research, but it has the also low-hanging fruit advantage of AI is that it can take the burden of a lot of different things that now require, human labor-intensive tasks can be taken over by AI, allowing human beings to focus on the more higher order value-adding things. And when you put more human minds on higher value adding things rather than be involved in administrative, repetitive tasks, that's just great for the world. And I think it's going to lead to more innovation. But also, I think we're already seeing many, many examples of where AI can help physicians, AI can help, pathologists, as well as radiologists, rather than having to depend on looking at, radio scans, all day long and evaluate them. We can use AI to actually, help with that. So there is a whole host of things that AI can help with. And one other thing, even though AI is all the buzz now, AI and machine learning are not that new. AI has already been used for more than a decade now, in small ways. I think what we are now seeing is the emergence of large language models like ChatGPT, which actually, is going to change the game for us. So, so in that vein, what I want to say is that we thought, okay, we are, we're getting, we're sort of like, more on the sunsetting part of our life. Whereas those who actually have grown up with computation and digital, the entrepreneurs who are emerging in the field, they are the ones who probably have a lot of new ideas. So we put out a challenge called Health AI for Good, because let's face it, we do want AI to be used responsibly and equitably, and got just extraordinary response. I mean, honestly, I don't know what I was expecting to throw out this sort of challenge to say, bring forward your ideas. But actually, we were quite impressed, and not just me, but we have an independent selection committee that has been looking at all of the applications, and quite impressed by all of them. So last week we announced the 10 finalists from that, big list, and it was exciting.
Can I ask you about the process?
Yeah.
So when you announced this challenge and looked for submissions, was this US based only? Was it New York based only? Is it global? Could you give us a sense of where all these ideas came from?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we threw out the challenge the prize winners will get 1 year residency at Cure, mentorship, access to resources, and also access to, experts and our ecosystem. And so that's what I think, the prize is. And the process was that because we wanted residency, people to actually come to Cure physically to New York City. The application, that was one part of like the requirements, qualifications, which is the ability to actually spend a year at Cure. Maybe not the whole team, but at least, a couple of the folks who are doing the work should spend that. And therefore, by default, I think to some degree, it was US based, even though we had a couple of applications from outside of the US. Also because of, all kinds of visa issues and things like that, which we didn't want to tackle the first year.
Makes sense.
And do this way, we kept it to US focus.
And it must be a little bit of a Northeast bias, a little bit too, probably.
Not really. We got a lot of West Coast folks who had done some really great work on the West Coast and now wanted to come to New York City and sort of do the additional work to expand their work on the East Coast.
Tremendous. And what was the so let geography notwithstanding now, what was the methodology and criteria used to pick these 10 finalists?
Yeah, so they had to come forward with ideas to responsibly and equitably use AI for good. It had to be a transformational idea. They had to be willing to, it could be, we wanted a diversity of ideas. So we wanted ideas from, that were just proof of concept, new, ideas that were a little bit more mature, things that were low-hanging fruit, or things that were like really, going after like real breakthroughs. We also wanted therapeutic area differences and sector differences, meaning, it was not all about drug discovery and discovering new drugs, but that was included. It also had to do with services and value-based healthcare, and it had to do with medical devices and diagnostics and all of the above. So what it was really at the end of the day was looking for somebody who, had something that was scientifically robust, that had, some level of work that they had done that could be scalable. There was enough of a prototype that was promising, that the scientific committee and the computational committee could look at it and see that there was, promise there. And it had to combine biology with computation/AI, couldn't just be, needed to be a collaborative team. So all of the above were criteria.
So to that end, and I know you recently announced the 10 publicly, and I took some time to look through these incredibly interesting organizations. At the end, we'll put a link to the list of the 10 so people could on their own peruse these. But I decided there were a couple in particular that I thought, as host of Bright Spots in Healthcare, were particularly relevant to some recent episodes we've recorded and some upcoming episodes we're going to record. So I was hoping to be able to ask you a little bit about these organizations and how you see these organizations leveraging AI to impact our payer and provider audiences who are listening to the show. So if it's okay, I'd love to talk about some of these potential bright spots specifically. One of the organizations that got nominated is Oben Health, and they're an AI-enabled platform that facilitates cardiovascular healthcare screenings and education and treatment via barbershops and salons. And they're based in Oakland, California. I'd love you to tell us a little bit about them and how they're leveraging this technology to make the world a better place and certainly improve healthcare.
Yeah, so, Oben Health was one of the nominees, and that was named as one of the 10 finalists. And as you said, it is an AI enabled platform, and it comes from, a personal experience of the founder who actually, had a brother who had very high blood pressure and cardiovascular issues, and unfortunately, passed away. And that made him realize how important the screenings were, education was, and so treatment, yes, of course, but the screenings and the education were just as important. And so, as you may know, a lot of times this education and screening, especially in an environment that generates trust, has been a big issue. And we saw this during the vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine, where in communities of color, even though we wanted to enroll them in clinical trials, or ensure that we were delivering vaccines, it was very hard to do because of the lack of trust. And people who are administering the treatment don't always look like people receiving the treatment. So if I was a Black woman, walking into a hospital that was fully white, it's a little bit disconcerting. And so, and there have been a lot of things that have happened in the past, in our history, where the trust has been violated, and so it takes a lot to build that trust. So barbershops tend to be, and salons tend to be, a place where we go to get our hair done. But it also, I mean, we all have had the experience where the person who's doing our hair is somebody we trust a lot, and sit down and can have open, honest conversations with. And so this particular platform takes advantage of AI and the barbershops to really teach them, and have them engage with the people to encourage them to go for screenings and educate them about cardiovascular disease and hypertension and so much more. So they have done this already on the West Coast. And this is an example of a company that's based in the West Coast is now looking to expand their work here on the East Coast.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things the founder said, and I'm going to quote, which just to give folks even more illustration of what this platform is designed to do, is it combines a barber community health worker for screening and health coaching. So the barber almost serves as the CHW, and then a clinical pharmacist, and then the AI platform, which
Yes.
is super interesting. And that platform, for folks who are just wondering, what does that do? It helps facilitate the care coordination and the workflow automation, and just overall enhances, whether it be a provider or payer partner or whoever they're going to be selling into, the overall population health management and analytics that come from that. So I super exciting and super interesting, and absolutely well intended too. So I'm wishing them the best. I want, and I know 10 nominees, they may not even be the winner, but I'm certainly wishing them the best. And then another one I'd love you to tell us a little bit more, because I know my audience will raise some eyebrows when they hear more about this organization. It's called Nutrible, and this is AI social workers. So I'd love you to tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, and so so this particular platform, is really what it does is using AI to enroll families into food, utility, and housing assistance, because this is something that people really are pain points for people. And so what they do is that they actually use AI and the social work knowledge to enroll people into this particular things that are related to the basic necessities of life. That is, food, that is utilities, that is, housing, a roof over your head, some sustenance. But then, what they do is that with that, they use AI to actually offer wellness programs and healthcare screenings. This reminds me of the kinds of things that I have seen happen in Africa as well as in India, where really what has happened is the best time to actually teach kids or young girls about health education is when they're in school. They go to school sometimes, not because of education, that may not be the primary purpose. They may go to school, especially in underprivileged communities, because the school provides lunch, right? So they're going to school for lunch, but then they're learning, a lot more about health and healthcare screening and much more. And so this is a similar concept, but what it is it's AI enabled, and by enabling it to be AI, what it does is it creates efficiency, it creates data, it creates empowerment, which is different from having to use completely human-based headcounts to actually deliver this. And as you know, the number of social workers that are available is especially in rural communities, is not that high. And so enabling, AI enabled social work actually is an efficient and scalable way to reach communities.
Yeah, including building trust. What caught my attention and why I wanted to ask you more about them was a couple of things. One was how these artificially intelligent social workers, AISWs as they call them, instantly enroll the families into food, utility, and housing assistance programs, and then offer them immediate wellness visits and healthcare screening. So I thought that was cool, and they do it through being able to take the questions in the application and then turn those into culturally competent conversations. And that drew my attention because we struggle with that as an industry. And as the families answer these questions, the platform is able to complete the application in real time and then send it over to the trained professionals for approval. And the other thing that caught my attention was their pilot results. So they've already worked with over 2,000 patients on this. They've already secured over $400 on average in resources per patient that interacts with it. And over 35% of the people who are interacting with it don't speak English as a second language. So I thought that was super cool. So I'm bullish on them, and hopefully companies like that are able to expand and accelerate, and using Cure as a incubator of sorts to do that. I'm wishing them the very best, because we in the industry, as everyone listening knows, certainly need support like that.
Yeah, and the judges are going to deliberate and pick the winners. And so, but in our eyes, all 10 are winners. But who ultimately makes it through, we'll wait and see. But as you know, Eric, this happens, all through life, even those who don't ultimately win the prize, which is the residency at Cure, even those who made the top 10 list will get the kind of visibility, I think, that young entrepreneurial companies and ideas need in order to really catch the attention, but also inspire the world with the kind of work that they're doing.
Seema, for anyone that's working internally at a big company, analogous to J&J, or maybe even someone that was leading their own solution provider organization who is listening, is there a common myth about innovation in healthcare that you could debunk for everyone, and maybe provide some wisdom from all your great experience for those listening who are trying to drive innovation at their organizations in one way, shape, or form?
Yeah, at Johnson & Johnson, some of the people the leadership there and some of the work that we did sprung from sort of one of the key ideas, where we say a great idea can come from anywhere in the world. And, if you can spot innovation, you should be agnostic to where the innovation comes from. And if you invest in great innovation that's going to help people and meet an unmet need, then, it's success all around. It creates a high tide that floats all boats. And sometimes in big, sometimes we all get into the syndrome of, not invented here, or that the ideas, it has to come from within our own walls, but that's not always the case. And the final thing I will say is that the people who have ideas, the best ideas to solve a problem, are the people who have the lived-in experience, of actually having faced the problem. And that's where innovation comes from. I remember this one story from a long time ago. This is nothing to do with any organization I worked with, but a business course in which there was a case study about the Tata Nano, which is like this tiny little car in India that costs like $2,000. I don't know what it costs now, but in those days, cost $2,000. And a big major American company that was trying to create a car for India failed because they put a lot of things in the car, like seat belts in the back, like some of the biggest bells and whistles on the dashboard in the front area, and so on. And the car ultimately was, 10 times more or so costlier.
Sure.
But Tata Nano was really taking an auto rickshaw, which has the side doors open. It only has a roof, and it's like three-wheeler, making it a four-wheeler and making it into a car. So from a safety perspective, it's much safer than the auto rickshaw. So you didn't need a whole lot of additional things, and seatbelts, of course. But the other part was that many people have chauffeurs who drive the cars. So really where you needed the bells and whistles were in the back seat, not in the front. And so there were little things like that were not culturally competent, right? And so, the American company that was trying to launch this car there didn't succeed. Cost, cultural competency, not understanding the market, not understanding the problem you're trying to solve for the people who actually have closer idea of where the problem is. So that's what I think it's all about. People who actually have lived experience are the most able to sort of create, underscore what the problem is that needs to be solved.
I like it. I wrote it down. Best ideas to solve the problem typically come from the ones who have lived the experience.
Yes, exactly. And, just on that note, at J&J, we had one of the first times we did a challenge like this was called the Africa Innovation Challenge. And there we had called upon innovators in Africa to come forward with ideas. And we didn't say what those ideas should be, because we would have no idea. They would have the idea for what needs to be solved and how to solve it. And we got pretty much submissions from almost all countries on the continent from Africa, and chose 3 winners. And even though those winners and those companies are doing great, but the rest of them who were still finalists still got enough visibility for their ideas that got picked up by the world. So that's it comes in all forms.
Love it. Where can people learn more about Cure? And like I said, we'll put all these links into the show description, but where can they find more about Cure and more about what you're doing?
Yeah, so you can go to www.wewillcure.com and find out more about it. And just Google Cure at 345 Park Avenue South, and you will see all of the information. And one thing I will say is that the AI, we focused a lot on the AI challenge because that's the news of the day, but Cure is so much more in terms of what we do. And so go learn more about it is what I would say.
Love it. Thank you so much for doing this. We'll also put that link to the 10 nominees, the press release, the 10 nominees. All of those have hot links to the individual organizations, so you could get a synopsis on all of them as well. So thanks so much for doing this, Seema. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We've been going back and forth for a while, folks, getting ready for this. We've been excited about doing this. I hope that you could use some of the ideas, concepts during today's discussion, some of these bright spots to inspire your thinking and enhance your company's current approach to improving healthcare for all of us, wherever you may be in listening to this. And just to remember to everyone, this is your Bright Spots in Healthcare podcast. Thank you very much, everyone. Great job.